All right, Mina Kimes is here. She just tried to get a free sponsorship from a drink company I will not name. She tried to say if anyone's listening, and then I said we're not recording yet because there's no free ads. It is also, we both are without air conditioning today. Me, for my house is undergoing some construction. I'm about to die. I'm on death's door. Mina, what's your excuse?
You're wearing a jacket, by the
Yeah,
way,
well,
for
I'm
the
not going to
audio
die
audience.
and look bad.
I live in Los
I'm not
Angeles.
going
It
to
is
dress
much hotter
down.
here.
I'm not going to dress down on my deathbed.
I am wearing a gray tank top. It is the 5th shirt I have worn today because of my AC situation. And because the heat of these takes that I'm dropping ahead of week 1.
There it is. Solar. All right. Let's start here. Your Super Bowl prediction is what?
Womp womp. Chiefs, Lions.
Do you regret a life of cowardice?
I actually had Chiefs Niners, and then I decided to.
Cool.
I know what to say. It could be worse.
Fortune favors the brave, Mina.
It really does.
The ship is safe at harbor, but that's not what it's for.
There's actually a lesson here to be learned generally in taking for anyone who's listening and looking to break into the take complex. You have nothing to gain by picking safe ever, right?
No.
Because nobody is going to remember if you go chalk in anything. And if you go with a long shot, like, I don't know, Texans Packers is a fun pick. And you're wrong, no one's going to care. But if you're right, whoo, baby, you get to screenshot that bad boy, post it everywhere. Say, look at me. I knew it. So you're right. I should go with a more obscure pick.
I will say there's a floor. Our friend Dan Lebitard once said the 2007 Lions were going to make some noise, and they went 0-16. So sometimes there's a floor. I will say it's like a more... Maybe I'm just getting smarter at football. I mean, I'm not getting smarter at football. But like, I do feel like the league with the quarterback play is becoming more coherent. Like, I do think that the barrier for entry has gotten so much higher that you have to have a certain level of quarterback play, which I don't think existed in the 90s and 2000s, where certainly that helped, but there were so many different paths to being a successful team. The Bucks obviously being the most recent example, I would say, of a team that was just like, okay, we'll fine. We'll do something else on offense. We'll figure it out. I think the barrier for entry is so high on the offensive side of the ball that it's more coherent. There's like a defined group of contenders that I think is unique to this era.
I think that, though, I think you're right. I remember earlier this offseason when I did a top 10 offenses pod, it was like mostly the same offenses last year, a few new ones, but it was very predictable and easy. Like, I think we know who those offenses are going to be. There might be a few surprises. Defenses, it feels like there's a lot less stability. Statistically, that's been the case, by the way. It's a lot harder to be a great defense year after year after year. But I think, to your point, in projecting like, who's going to make a deep playoff run? Who's going to make the Super Bowl? It's not that risky. I said Texans Packers, but like, that's not actually a risky pick because we have seen both of those quarterbacks already play incredibly high level football, and they have really good coaches and really good skill players. What would be risky is to choose, the 2001 Ravens or whatever, to try to pick that team, thread the needle where it's like, the Browns are going to have an elite defense again. And maybe if they just get average quarterback play, that would be the risky pick that I shall not make.
You should not make it. Who would be the best quarterback you'd be surprised by in the Super Bowl?
Ooh, that's a fun question. Thinking about, would we be surprised? The Dolphins.
I had a Tua line there. Like that would be the line for me. I would not be surprised, because Tua, with that playbook, that play calling, those scheme guys, is sort of the cousin of Brock Purdy with that playbook and scheme guys. And I wouldn't be surprised by Brock Purdy. The difference is the Niners defense is going to be better than the Dolphins defense.
Also, the Niners offense, unlike Miami offense, we've seen translate in different circumstances. Yes. Their ability, they're so physical. They match up so well with so many different types of defenses.
So banged up. They were so banged up last year, and the pass rush depth was so weak. It went from a strength to a weakness very quickly.
We're talking about
Miami did. Yeah.
San Francisco, by the way, the case against San Francisco was that they were not banged up last year. They were, FTN does those 8 adjusted games last year, the 4th healthiest team in football, and that I know that everybody's on track for week 1 now. McCaffrey's back. Ayuk and Trevor, everyone's back. That's great, but I feel like that level of health seems unlikely to repeat.
I don't like the do it in the playoffs thing with the Dolphins. Like, I understand they have to do it in the playoffs, but I do think I think there's very few excuses that are real, but like health is one of the excuses, and they've gotten really bad luck on that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, but you know what though? The defense was the group that was banged up, and weirdly, the defense actually wasn't that bad in the playoffs. It's funny. I actually thought they
interrupting my agenda. What were you gonna say? Finish your point. Sorry.
That would be a great tactic for the upcoming presidential debate. Stop interrupting my agenda.
I'm pushing an agenda. Excuse me. I'm pushing an agenda.
Are you familiar with #the agenda?
I don't think so. Explain.
It's a movement on Saints Twitter to replace Derek Carr with Spencer Rattler.
Oh, how's it coming? How's the project?
It's spreading. Okay. It's spreading. I think they got the Panthers week 1.
Yeah.
But I feel like the second there's like the Saints lose like a 17-13 game, and Derek Carr doesn't convert like any third and longs, the agenda is you're gonna see it trending it's gonna crack the top 20 on Twitter.
If you were to launch a sports conspiracy like that, it'd be very hard. But what steps would you have to take?
You'd have to get somebody with an account with like less than 50 followers to tweet about it like 3 years before it happens. And then people can point back to that one tweet. There's
also one other thing you have to do. You have to convince a beat writer that there's genuine buzz inside the building. Like just, hey, there's some inside the facility buzz for Spencer Rattler. That's how it starts. And then it just starts to snowball.
By the way, speaking of my tactics in terms of the conspiracy theory, if you're an account like that, you should every college quarterback, you should just tweet DJ Angola is going to win the Super Bowl. And if you do every quarterback, when it happens, inevitably, and it's finally somebody other than Patrick Mahomes, people can find that one tweet and you can look like a genius and nobody will notice that you did a million other ones.
So there used to be these accounts before the Champions League draws where they would tweet every single possibility and then they would delete the ones that didn't happen. And then they would say the draw was rigged.
You know what that reminds me of? When I was a financial journalist, I wrote about this guy, I can't remember his name, Bob something, who was very bearish on subprime, like the mortgage industry essentially, and made a ton of money in the crash and looked like this huge genius. I think the headline was like the man who saw it coming. But the reality was he had been calling for that for like 15 years. And then it just happened and he looked like a genius and he got to ride the wave and he made a ton of money, of course. But I feel like that's a lane that can be carved out in sports takes.
Well, you just got the thing is so Paul DePodesta famously said that what he wants in ownership is, and this is when he was in baseball, right? He'd just gone to Cleveland as the strategy president or whatever, that every owner says they want to do analytics. And then it's like his daughter at a roller coaster who says they want to get on the roller coaster. And the moment it gets scary, they say, I want to get off the roller coaster. Okay. That's what his daughter says. And an ownership person says, I don't want to do analytics anymore because we just went 2-15 and our season tickets are down, right? With takes, this is my advice to takesmen and takeswomen. Just keep going on a take. Like don't ever admit defeat, because at some point the ticket's gonna cash. If you've decided that one player is really bad, you never sent you got me, guys. You just keep going. You just keep going because one day you'll come out of the other side. The only thing that are undefeated are Father Time and the blackjack table, and it always comes out in the wash.
That's how I always felt about Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, 100%.
History will vindicate me.
I will say there is a university in Tallahassee, Florida right now that things are not going well for them. There's some old takes exposed getting retweeted today, and I don't want to harp on it. All right, so I think that there's a lot of really fun young quarterbacks.
Yes.
And I think that that's partially because of the transfer portal. I don't want to do this whole thing, but I think it's NIL. They're staying an extra year. The portal is helping them find their destinies. I think that there's an element of football is now like any other college where you can just keep transferring until you find your major and what you
Mm.
want to do. Like, Bo Nix, if he hadn't gone to Oregon, probably be selling insurance somewhere. If he didn't stay for an extra year, he would have been drafted much lower. Like, there's so many, and he wouldn't have gotten paid for it. Like, the portal NIL is really helping the quarterback position. And so there's so many different varieties of quarterback. There's the old man, I call them the doctor quarterbacks. There's 3 quarterbacks who benefited directly from the portal: Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and Jaden Daniels. And then there's the 3 and out, the traditional 3 and out guys. 2 of them stayed in the same school for 3 years and then left. And I think Bo Nix threw the ball like 1,200 times in college, more than JJ McCarthy did. So it's like almost like they were playing different sports, had different careers. That's why I'm not surprised, by the way, that Bo Nix is won the job and he'll probably have immediate success. My question is this: given the different profiles of everybody, at the end of this season only, we will say who was the best player in the draft. Quarterback.
Best player in the draft.
Best quarterback.
Oh, best quarterback. Okay.
Sorry.
Same energy I brought to your first question. Caleb Williams. I'm sorry. Cool. I know it's boring, but it's correct because of the circumstances that he's walking into. I think a more complicated question would be, what if you scrambled those circumstances? Yeah. So let's say Caleb had ended up in New England, Jaden went to Chicago, Drake May ended up in Washington, then would the order be different? And I think that the margins between the top 3, I viewed this as being a very clear top 3 draft, by the way, are slim enough to where situation year 1 probably is going to be the biggest dictator of success. Agreed. I also think Caleb Williams is a really, really special player. And, obviously we've already seen that on display in the preseason. There's going to be some ups and downs. Very interested in this week 1 matchup against the Titans defense that I think is going to be a little bit more stout this year than maybe people expect because of some of the additions they made in free agency. But I find it hard to imagine a world in which he doesn't finish the season and we're like, yeah, that's why he was number 1 overall.
I think that Jaden Daniels' deep passing is going to shock people, like immediate day 1 deep passing. I think he is so advanced at that. Like the explosive numbers, how he got better year over year at slot seams, inside fades, all of these things that he was basically savant at in his last year in college, that's going to translate immediately. And he's played a lot of football, like as I continue to be amazed by. He threw a touchdown to Brandon Ayuk to beat Justin Herbert, which should not happen if you're someone entering the league in 2024. By the way, Miami has a ninth year tight end who was in the same recruiting class at Oregon as Justin Herbert. He scored a touchdown on Saturday. So there you go. Follow your dreams, kids. And so I think it's probably going to be, as you said, Caleb, because of the infrastructure. But I kind of think the excitement of Jaden Daniels is going to catch people by surprise.
Yeah.
We had Foxworth and I went around in circles on this today because Charlie Kravitz said, should the Bears expect to make the playoffs? And I said they kind of should. And Dominique said no, because just a rookie quarterback and the expectations are too high and they might make the playoffs, but they shouldn't expect it. I think with Caleb and that infrastructure, I think he should, if he doesn't rewrite Bears passing records, which most of them are from like 1947, right? Like that's actually a problem. Like if you could, the Bears never had a 4,000 yard passer. You can accidentally have a 4,000 yard passer. Have you seen the amount of people who've had 4,000 yards in the NFL? Like the fact that the Bears haven't had one, that's the miraculous thing. Okay, so Caleb Williams should do that early. If he's healthy, he should do it this year. If not, next year, and they should win. Like he has all of the things that Justin Fields never had as far as infrastructure. DJ Moore is really good. Rome Odunze, I think, is playing beyond his years. They should compete for the playoffs and make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I mean, they also have a really good defense on the other side.
Yes.
Which the Washington Commanders, I don't think, do. Commanders are a trickier one for me because, I think, Jaden Daniels, terrific thrower of the football. As you said, he's great. Great on deep balls. I think he's smart. I think he's good at reading defenses. I think he's really great at reading the blitz. I think his dual threat ability will also allow defenses to reveal himself to him in a way and manipulate them. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. It'll clarify things, rather. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how much Cliff Kingsbury leans into the design quarterback run game like he did in Arizona, given, obviously, the durability questions around his quarterback. But I just can't get there because I'm just a little bit too dubious about that offensive line, and I'm a little bit dubious about Cliff Kingsbury, to be honest. I mean, just watching his offense in the preseason looked really similar to what we saw in the NFL with Arizona. And,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, hey, bud, dog just walked in. In terms of spreading
Your
things
dog just
out.
walked in?
Yeah, he's
Can I
right
see
here.
him?
Whenever I lift him up, he sheds like crazy. So,
So the audience can just imagine.
sorry,
You've
he's
seen
down
many.
there. Yeah, but I mean, the
Herb
preseason
Street would do it. Herb Street would do it.
It's true. So much internet conversation around that. I think that it's like a larger internet conversation, or I think bringing your dog into a public space is the perfect internet conversation starter because it gets people so disproportionately opinionated about a small thing. I think.
And
that
there's a
has no
lot of
bearing
people
on their
on
lives.
Twitter who are deeply unhappy.
That too, yeah.
And so they just like to say, "Come on, buddy." And it's like, "What? Come on, what?" He's got a dog. He likes his dog. It's fine.
It's fine. Jaden Daniels, that offense, yeah. So it looked pretty similar to how it looked in Arizona. I think they're gonna play with a lot of tempo. I think they're gonna spread things out. I think the ball's gonna come out of his hands quickly, which should mitigate sort of the offensive line concerns to some degree. But I don't know if that's going to work against good defenses in 2024. And I don't think that has anything to do with Jaden Daniels, to be honest. I'm talking about the combination of that line and Kingsbury, but I'm excited to watch him play.
I picked the Packers to win the Super Bowl. And part of that to me is I think Jordan Love is special. We've talked about this many times. I think that the highs he reached in the second half of the season are highs most quarterbacks have not reached for 10 weeks at a time in the NFL. Very, 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 very few. Best deep passer in the NFL of the second half of the season. Worked every level of the field. Changed protections at the line. Had a mastery of what defense were trying to do to him, partially because he was really well coached by Matt LaFleur, partially because the wide receivers, there's real depth there. I think Matt LaFleur said it correctly. He wants to puke every time he hears about number one receiver because they've got 5 who might be number 2, which, by the way, most teams would kill for. And I think that it was the youngest team in 40 years to make the playoffs since the 77 Bears. And teams don't age in years in the NFL, they age in games. And I think that they are ready. I think the NFC is a little weak. I think they can get there. And then I think it's kind of we've seen this. The Chiefs win when they win. I mean, it's almost like the Patriots, right? Like when they get to the Super Bowl, they tend to win by just one or two scores by just a few points and just a few plays here and there. And I kind of think the Packers are the type of team that can steal a Super Bowl. That's why I went for it. Also, 99% of the time I would pick the Chiefs in these situations because I just feel I can't talk about how Mahomes is in his Jordan era and then be like, oh, by the way, he's going to lose. But in this particular situation, I do think Jordan Love is going to be in that special rarefied air. I think CJ Stroud is 2 years away from being in that special rarefied air. I think there's going to be a golden generation of quarterbacks that is going to get us through the next decade that I just could not be more excited about.
You think Love is a year ahead of Stroud? Or do you think that his circumstances are better? Is that why you're...
His circumstances are better.
Interesting.
He's older. He's been in more, even though, obviously Jordan Love's sat for a while, been in more training camps, had more development. I think that defense at the Packers is really athletic. I think there's a little bit of hope is not a strategy thing here with me right now where I'm like, why would I do this? Because I haven't really completed that circle as far as the Packers defense goes. But it's really athletic, and they just kind of have to hold serve, which is something they haven't done the last few years. I think they can do it with the BC coach.
That'll be interesting.
I think they can generate pass rush. I think some of those Georgia guys can come on. I bet on athleticism. I tend to bet on athleticism. And that's why I love high school recruiting so much. Like, just take the athletes and figure it out later. Like, there's are you familiar with George Young's planet theory? Familiar with that? So it's George Young, the old Giants general manager, who taught this to Parcells, who then taught it to Belichick, which is that there's certain guys who are the only people on the planet who move like they do, who like exist like they do. So if you're 330 pounds and you can move really well, just put those guys on your team. Just planet guys. If there's one of these guys on the planet, we're putting them on the team. And I kind of feel like with the Packers, with the way they draft with athleticism and size, like eventually those guys hit. And I do feel like this year might be that year. Anyway, that's not important. What I do think is that Jordan Love showed how good he was. They could have won the Super Bowl last year, frankly, if they'd gotten a couple of breaks. I think this year it happens.
I mean, it's funny. I object more, or at least I think I have more difficulty deciding between him and Stroud and
yes.
than I do envisioning a world in which the Packers can play in the Super Bowl, if that makes sense. Because it seems
they can both play in the Super Bowl this year.
They could.
You could have picked
that.
Said,
I know I could have picked that. Maybe
instead you picked 0 of them.
Yeah, I mean, like I love the Packers offense so much. It was one of my favorite offenses to watch in the second half of last season, not just because Jordan Love was like kind of like, this word gets overused, but he was hooping. Right? He was hooping. I mean, it just playing with a level of not just confidence in his ability. I mean, the fadeaways and some of the insane throws that he was making, but also like faith in the structure of the offense. It felt like a vision, like a plan coming together. And we talk about like, of course they were better in the second half of the season because they were so young, and the young pass catchers were better too, along with Jordan Love. But I also think Matt LaFleur was better, or rather, he figured out exactly how to optimize those skill players, and also how to optimize the Love offense. I don't think Aaron Rodgers held him back. Obviously, he was an MVP those years, but there was a little bit of a conflict of ideas when he was playing for him, and famously didn't want to, turn his back to the defense. He used motion, and it was very like
Rodgers wanted to use a lot of McCarthy plays, and I think it impressed a lot of those Shanahan McVay disciples that Matt LaFleur was open to using Mike McCarthy plays. Because I have to be smart. I'll be honest with you. If I was Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers is like, I want to use Mike McCarthy's plays, I'd be like, my plays are better than Mike McCarthy's plays. That's what I would say. But Matt LaFleur has.
It was an interesting melding of ideas, though, because it wasn't. Awesome. It was different, yeah. But and it really worked for sure when they had Devontae Adams. But I think you saw him last year. It's kind of like, honestly, frankly, what you saw with Kevin Stefanski and Joe Flacco to a much like lesser degree, which is like, oh, this is the offense the coach wants to run, right? And it wasn't just like, I think sometimes when we talk about motion, we're like, oh, you press a button, motion. But no, it was the purposeful use of it, the way that he deployed some of the young skill players who were coming off of motion to get open over the middle of the field in particular, and stress defenses, not just in terms of getting information to the quarterback. It was a joy to watch. It was really, I think it opened things up in the run game as well. So, I think the Packers are going to be a top 5 offense, no question. I think, though, the Texans are right up there with them. I have a few more questions about the play caller, honestly, and I don't know if that run game is going to be that much better. We'll see, but which is probably why I do have them in like more in that 5 to 10 range, and the Packers in the 1 to 5 range. But damn, they're don't you think that they're sort of the AFC and NFC versions of each other right now?
I do, and I think that the Texans are probably blocked by the Chiefs, which is why I picked them to make the Super Bowl, and the Packers are not. Having said that, you mentioned Cleveland. I wasn't paying attention. They obviously, what you were talking about with Joe Flacco, they did bring him back, right? They had to, because you're describing like something that's really special, so they had to have brought him back. So I'm just guessing.
There were rumors that they might trade Jameis Winston, which my immediate reaction was he too good too?
Was he too good?
I also have Jameis Winston weirdly in my dynasty league, so I'm kind of hoping he sticks around there.
Better not call a kneel down, because he might call power. All right, this is the last thing before we get to the ManningCast musical. Who's the title belt holder for the most exciting part of football right now? Most fun, exciting, whatever you want to say. Like the guy where you're just like, I want to watch clips of that guy. Doesn't have any position. Who you got?
Okay. This is a super biased answer because
no.
I just interviewed him, and that's coming out at some point. It's my favorite player to watch right now is Kyle Hamilton on the Ravens.
Okay.
Who did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say like Geno Smith, or like my favorite is Mike McDonald scheming up stuff on the sidelines. I thought you were going to say that. All right, explain the Kyle Hamilton thing.
I mean, no one that size should be able to do what he does on the field. ability to play so many positions at such a high level, to match up with so many different types of skill players. I saw on Twitter there was a clip of the Travis Kelce touchdown in the corner from the AFC Championship. And I can't remember who originally posted it. I don't want to like straw man this, but somebody was like, wow, Travis Kelce owned him. And people were like, that was
Mhm.
perfect coverage. It was just like an
Mhm.
unbelievable throw. But I think like the fact that he's already been weaponized to that extent in just year two is extremely, extremely scary. I will say, though I feel like on the flip side, Christian McCaffrey, it's the more
Mhm.
like normie answer, but like I know he was offensive player of the year, but I don't know if the world appreciates the impact that he has on that offense. And he kind of is like the inverse of Hamilton in some ways. The things that he is capable of doing are not things that I don't think we've ever seen from a running back before.
And it's I am so happy for football, and that is such a stupid, like, remember who's the big old Hall of Fame guy who should go around saying thank you for all you've done for the game of football? Remember that guy?
He
And
still does it, I think.
I don't
He's
think he
like
does. I
eight
don't
feet
think he
tall.
does. Yeah, I think he's still 8 feet tall, but I don't think he does it anymore. I don't think he works for the Hall of Fame anymore. But I sound like that when I'm saying this, but like, thank God Christian McCaffrey went to the Niners, because it's the well, I mean, yeah, more homework. But like,
There's my
it's the
homework comment.
perfect marriage between like
That's
the Cormac
crazy.
McCarthy thing, the ultimate weapon with its ultimate practitioner, like
Yeah.
that Kyle Shanahan with Christian McCaffrey is a beautiful thing to watch. And there's every scenario in which some thoughtless, stupid team was just going to say, "Oh, let's get Christian McCaffrey and figure
Yeah.
the rest out later," and it would have been awful for everybody. Awful for everybody.
Right.
Thank God Michael Flynn says it's David Baker. So David Baker,
David
by
Baker,
the way,
right, is
also
that
not
guy's name.
no
Yeah.
longer with the Hall of Fame. But thank God he went there, and we can see this, because I think there's a lot of offenses in which Christian McCaffrey isn't as utilized as well, and we're having a completely different conversation about his value.
Who is your most hipster answer to that question of a player that you're excited to, you just like love watching
Well,
play?
how hipster is Bijan Robinson?
Not that hipster. I
Yeah,
mean,
not
he's
that
the number
hipster.
2 fantasy player.
Oh,
Right.
I don't play fantasy, so I wouldn't know. Is Field Gates big Bijan Robinson guy? I think I saw the other day.
I think
I
I
think I.
texted Field about Bijan versus Lamb, and he said he went Lamb over Bijan, but I mean,
Mm,
still very high on Bijan, obviously.
mm. My feeling on Bijan is that like the force missed tackle stuff he does,
Yeah.
you're not supposed to do that at the NFL level. And I just love what I love is guys who come to the NFL and the question is like, well, you can't do that against NFL teams. And it's like, well, no, I'm just going to do that because I'm just that athletic. I I adore that.
He
Travis
should, by the
Kelce,
way, Bijan should, though, pay a portion of his salary to whoever the Atlanta Falcons posted that overhead clip
the
of
little
him running
overhead
in
thing.
like week 4 or whatever. I don't think a single clip has done more for a player's reputation, because that was unbelievable. And also, it was like a sad offense otherwise. So it made a big difference.
Well, I mean, like, and I don't. Are the Falcons even going to be good this year? I think they're going to be okay.
They're going to win the division. I think the question is, can they do anything else beyond that?
I think weirdly, and I've talked about this a couple times this summer. Like, I adore, and this is not hipster at all, unless I'm just going to say he's underrated, which he's not. I adore watching Travis Kelce. The way that I'll tell you a story. Is Mahomes and him, they just play basketball out there. They just play pitch and catch. And Mahomes just sits in these zones and then Kelce sits in these zones, grab the ball and just falls down. Okay. And I had a coach text me as soon as I said that on the Bill Simmons podcast. And he was like, our coaches and we like want to see what like how these plays are drawn up. Like if we could see anything in football, we would want to see Andy Reid's playbook for like Travis Kelce runs 7 yards, sits between two linebackers, and then just grabs the ball. Like it does not seem like it's a
Yeah.
coherent play.
Also,
It's the
yeah.
closest thing to hoops we have.
It's also like similar to basketball. It is like improvised acting, or right? Where like we know when like
Yes.
George Clooney will be like, I don't know, I was just ad libbing that, and you're like, were you really? I don't
Yeah.
know. That's how. Because afterwards they'll always say it wasn't drawn up, but I feel like sometimes it was, and sometimes like when in the preseason when Mahomes did the underarm or behind the
Yeah.
back or whatever, or when they when they had the lateral that was called back because of the Kadarius Toney, who, by the way, I just saw visited with the Seahawks.
Maybe it'll work this time.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe he's locked in.
Anyways, but when that happened, and it's like, did you guys practice this? And you can never tell, right?
No.
You just if you're constantly living in that zone where nobody can tell if you're doing stuff on purpose, that's a pretty good place to be in.
Well, it's like the movies, the Christopher Guest movies, where it's like, did they come up with that? Was that one scripted? Was that one scripted in A Mighty Wind? I can't really tell. And then they go, no, of course not. I will say Fred Warner, even though he's not a hipster answer, like,
good answer.
To watch him, I've become such a linebacker guy over the past few years. I was just the things you have to be able to do to be that athletic. And also, and we've talked about this, but like Fred Warner would be amazing playing against the 49ers. Amazing. And the fact that they have him is such a gift. And it also, like, you know, it's why
the Ravens are like the only defense who can play the Niners, because they have the closest thing to Fred Warner in the entire NFL.
Right. And Matt Milano keeps getting hurt, by the way. And he was going to be that version with the Bills for the Dolphins, and he keeps getting hurt. And it's really, really sad. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, last thing, ManningCast musical came out on Tuesday. You have a cameo in it. That's exciting. Why didn't you sing?
I didn't want to outshine everybody. I am so bad at singing that I don't even do karaoke, and I'm Asian. That's how bad I am. I'm Korean. It literally is in my DNA, and yet
I'm not good at singing, but I just go for it.
Yeah, like now, if you do.
Yeah, I do. I do any number of Pearl Jam songs, or "Hunger Strike" by Temple of the Dog, which is a cousin of a Pearl Jam song. It's really easy. Just go really deep, and then you also can get people. If there's enough white people, you can get people to sing along.
To Pearl, I've never seen a group of. Wow. Okay.
Well, what did I just say? You just get a bunch of 38-year-old white people, older, I'd say, maybe older, like 45-year-olds. And my guess is, if you did it at the ESPN cafeteria, you could get some people to sing along. I've gotten some feedback on that. So yeah, no, I could definitely get a Pearl Jam song. I've done it many times. I've done it. There's a proof of concept.
One crappy thing about
even though you do that, and then what just happened? Magic. And then see, you want to sing along at home.
How does Jeremy go again? I feel like
Jeremy spoken. You have to do like the exaggerated Eddie Vedder voice, or else people are going to be like, this guy's too earnest. And there's like a couple, especially with Jeremy, there's a lot of hand motions you can do. A lot of hand motions? Because well, if you've seen Ed Vedder, live enough, you kind of pick up on it through osmosis.
Jeremy was about a school shooting, right?
It sure was. That's why it's not my number one karaoke pick, but you brought it up.
All of those songs from the 90s and early 2000s, when you are about upsetting things. When you grow up and you look.
Even Flow's about the homeless crisis. So even that
Lifehouse song that's about like a
what?
You know that not Hanging On a Moment, not Lifehouse. I'm thinking of a different song.
You're thinking of The Verve. You're thinking of The Verve?
Freshman? I'm sure that's about something awful.
About bad stuff. No, it's about bad stuff.
Okay, what I was gonna say is, by the way, Lifehouse Hang On to the Moment was the theme of my senior prom.
Really? I have no idea what
here with you.
What was the theme of my senior prom? I have
Terrible
no idea.
Theme. Like what?
No.
What does that even? How do you even hang on a moment?
The theme of my senior prom was everybody going to their safety school and being upset about it.
Wait, no, I was gonna say though, the problem with being not a singer, despite my genes, is I have a baby now, which means you have to sing constantly. And let me tell you, if you want to hear something upsetting, me hitting the 4th verse in Baby Beluga is not pleasant for anyone involved. I can't think
just one bar. Though. Just one bar.
Baby Beluga in the deep blue sea, swims so wild and you swim so free. Heaven above and the sea below, and a little white whale on the go. Baby. I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That was beautiful. If I was Nino, I'd be very pleased.
It's not even the best Raffi. It's not even a top 5 Raffi song.
Can I get your top 5 Raffi?
Brush Your Teeth, number 1.
Yeah.
Easy. I like that song about the horses. I forget what it's called. I like the song about 6 little ducks. He was the duck with the feather on his back or whatever. Quack, 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 quack. Anything where I can make animal sounds is... It's incredible, by the way, how much of having a child is just making animal sounds.
I agree. I will say this, a little behind the scenes BTS, is that I was really hoarse on Around the Horn 2 weeks ago. Really, really, really hoarse. And the reason was because I was playing with my child a lot that day, and he's going through a huge Cookie Monster phase. Huge. He just
the
says,
one thing
cookie.
I can do.
C is for cookie. And I was going, C is for cookie. And just over and over and over again until my voice got shot. And then I'm giving, Bears takes to Courtney Cronin, and I got nothing in the arsenal.
Ask me to do a Bears take and a Cookie Monster, or any take, in a Cookie Monster voice. The problem with my Cookie Monster voice is it sounds a little bit like another character. So
okay, all right. So take me through what Caleb Williams' expectations should be in year 1 with Cookie Monster.
Caleb Williams is a very talented quarterback. He makes plays with hands and feet at same time. However, if he no get rid of ball quicker, going to take many sacks.
Who's the other character?
Was it Oscar?
I get a lot of Yoda and with a touch of Jar Jar.
Yeah. You get a lot of that? How often are you sharing this?
It's the one character I can do.
Oh, boy.
Is this are we still taping?
Yeah, the show's been canceled. The show has been canceled. It was canceled in the middle of Baby Beluga. All right, ladies and gentlemen, ManningCast, the musical.
Hey, Dad, Eli and I were talking, getting ready for the next season of the ManningCast. You got any ideas?
Yeah, I have an idea. Tony.
Tony. Wow.
Peyton, again, we are not giving Omaha its own section at Epcot.
No. I have a new idea, Bob. Eli and I are going to try to win a Tony Award. Can you just get us a theater? Just give us one night, and we'll prove we can be Broadway stars.
All right, I guess one night, but only one night.
From one big thing to one potentially very bad idea.
Peyton and Eli Manning are gambling their reputations on a Broadway musical.
Hey, Jimmy, I've got a theater for just one night. I need the best of the best.
Peyton, don't say another word. I've got the perfect guy for you.
I can't wait to watch the Mannings on Broadway. Like this.
Listen, I know very little about theater, but I think these guys have got a real chance. They're no strangers to a Hail Mary. Let's see if they can get it down the field.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting ManningCast, the musical. All right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna need you to silence your phones, okay? That means you, Commissioner Goodell. Okay, you on the phone, I see you. Put it up.
Our playing days are over, Pate. Now what do we do?
I don't know, E. I mean, I wish we had a good idea.
From beating up Tom to full-time Mr. Mom.
Folks make fun of your head, sell ad space there instead.
Like to make Manning face, markets a Manning face maze.
You know insurance rates, but can you win a debate?
No, these aren't right for me.
And I just wanna watch TV.
That's it.
It is?
Not a standard broadcast.
We'll do a ManningCast.
Something good that will last.
Or just a ManningCast.
Top of the ratings and fast.
We still talking ManningCast?
Let's leave the critics again.
Oh yes, the ManningCast.
Mr. Manning, this is our dream. Please shut your mouth and let us coach our team. Hearing you talk makes our IQs lower. Did you forget your playing days are over? Mannings, we don't mean to shout, but do not question when we call timeout. Mr. Manning, this is our play. Please take your stupid show off TV. Off of TV.
No, they're actually doing great. People are loving it. We gotta have them focusing on football, not Broadway.
How long is this thing?
Think Dad will notice if we leave at intermission?
Who designed this shit?
Not us, but we made these.
Yeah. Now these are nice.
Quarter zips, if you wanna be hip, wear a quarter zip.
Wear a quarter zip.
What's our one fashion tip? Yes, it's wear a quarter zip. Won't you read my lips?
Let me see that zip.
Yeah.
Quota zips, you know what it is. Zip, 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 then handle your biz. Quota zips, it's the Manning boys drip. Zip on it, now watch me crip. Zip on it.
Sorry you passed now, aren't you?
Man, fellas, he's right. We messed up.
It's the Manning boys drip. Zip on it, now watch me crip. Crip.
This is the biggest moment of your life. It's who we are. I need this to be incredible.
1,020 minutes plus maybe some overtime. This is the length of a regular season.
They're gonna win a Tony. And I just want them to have you on the show, Tony.
Archie, my name is Robert, in case you're interested.
Nice.
It's the ManningCast show.
Hey, we got a problem. It's time for Plan B.
Excuse me. Hate, and why do you hate us? Pressures of a kicker. It's good.
We're doing it, Pate.
Yeah, we got one more big number, though.
The grand finale.
Let's get our game faces on. Okay, we're ready.
Wait. Costume change.
When you're sitting on your couch and it's Monday night,
And you can't find the remote, you search with all your might.
the TV's stuck on ESPN 2 and you're thinking, what is this awful sight? It's the ManningCast. Now football fans unite. Hosted by two bros. We often wear the same clothes. We love the Giants, Colts, and Broncos. From a basement and garage comes a 3-hour dad joke barrage. Packed with guests who make you miss big plays in the game. ManningCast, we couldn't think of a better name. ManningCast, we're here to stay. Gonna do play-by-play. Kickers, we guess that you're okay. And all we really wanna do is spend some random Monday night with you. So as the game is getting
this, Mannings.
Who unplugged the musical? Huh? You're welcome. See what I just did there? I just saved the musical. I didn't think it was going to be that good.
Go! Peyton! I bought the merch!
Wow, these reviews are incredible. Hello?
It's Bill. I'm good on this ManningCast thing this season.
Seriously, you are?
Yeah, count me in.
That's incredible, Bill. All right, I'll talk to you later. E.
Hey, what's up? Did we get a Tony?
No. But even better, we got a Bill.
ManningCast, asking you to please tune in.
Your favorite people. Let's do a power ranking. The best performers here on the ManningCast, the musical. I'll throw out some candidates here. So
Okay.
first of all, I, by the grace of God, was right outside where they were filming a lot of this.
Wow.
Because I was at the owners' meetings and I had some different stuff set up with coaches and GMs. You can view that. Matt LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, all these folks. And we set up right next to Omaha had a room, and so they were like, why don't you use this? And so we were right next to it. So we saw people come in, come out, and I knew it was special. I was lucky enough to see Jim Harbaugh do it. And he was so into it. And you
Yeah.
could tell he had the little top hat on, he was all
Yeah.
dressed out. That's when I knew it was special. And it was. And I've been waiting for it for months ever since. There was one thing, I got Mike McDaniel and they were like, hey, why don't we do this for my show? And they were like, why don't we do this when he does the other Omaha thing? I was like, great. So we'll do. It took him 5 minutes to do that. Then it took 5 minutes to do my thing. And I just said to him at the beginning, I was like, this is going to be a very bizarre 10 minutes for you. And he was like, yeah, that's correct. It was correct. But I loved the enthusiasm of that everybody had. And so both Harbaughs, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, Brian Daboll were the head
Yeah.
coaches.
Yeah.
And then the other people I loved, Baker Mayfield, very into it.
Our finest working athlete actor. Can I throw that out there? Agree or disagree? Because
Wow.
when he was in Cleveland and he did the progressive
Yeah.
commercials, right? I mean, I was like starstruck.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
a natural.
Yeah, so you got him as like the next Rock. That just like 10 years from now, he's
Maybe the
piloting-
next Peyton.
maybe the next Peyton.
In terms of like the commercials and
Yeah.
the SNL and like the occasional appearance. I'm just telling you, that guy, whatever the it factor is in terms of commercials and acting, Baker Mayfield's got the goods.
Backstreet Boys were in it. Always good to see some Orlando representation. They were always in the mix. Tell you something, you spend a lot of time around Orlando, you see a lot of Backstreet Boys and NSYNC members. A lot. Good to see them.
Yeah, I thought we got to also Bill showing up at the end, old Belichick.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Bill Burr as well. Speaking of New England Bills.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. Loved that bit. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Goodell committing to the bit. Thought it was a good
Effortful.
little And then Justin Tucker. Phenomenal.
Have I told you my Justin Tucker story?
You have not yet. You're about to.
I met him for the first time at the Pro Bowl in 2022, I want to to say. It was in Vegas, not Orlando that year. And I walked up to him. I don't really like to but yeah, everyone was just kind of milling around. And I was like, hey, I'm Mina Kimes. I'm just a big fan of yours. I'm just huge fan. And he was like, yeah, I've seen all your tweets.
Oh boy. It's beautiful. What is the one thing? Who's the most terrifying person that would be like, I am aware of your social presence?
Well, not somebody who I've been entirely positive about, which is the case.
Right.
Like that was embarrassing, but
Right.
at least it's all nice. Anyone who I've been super critical of, I don't know, maybe like Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, well, I actually had that. And I had that with Brandon Staley, where I introduced myself to Brandon Staley about 18 months ago. And you're in these hallways. I didn't pick up a lot of warmth, but I would never read into that stuff, right? Let me rephrase that. I read into that stuff all the time. And so I asked someone, I was like, either he is aware of, either he's not into it, either he knows what I've said. I get after it with Staley sometimes, or he just didn't know who I was and was just kind of puzzled by it. And the person I said this to was like, oh, no, he knows who you are. I was like, okay, it's option A. We move. It's business. It's business. I would love to talk to Brandon. There are many people I've actually criticized and then I've ended up having a great relationship with. Or at least like a warm, how you doing, pal?
I've had a couple like that. Yeah.
I've had, who, and this isn't, I wouldn't characterize this as a great relationship, but it's a warm relationship. Ryan Grigson is a guy who I know was not a huge fan of my criticism of him. And now when I see him, there's
Minnesota now, right? He's in Minnesota.
Yeah, there's an embrace. There's at least
an
an embrace. How you doing?
In your defense, most people were critical of the
I nailed it. No, I nailed it. I nailed it, and I get the embrace. That's called crushing it on both sides.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, when I met Justin Herbert for the first time, I was like, yeah, dude, I was really, really dead wrong about you ahead of the draft. And he was like, it's okay, it happens.
Yeah, I had that with the Amari Cooper trade too. I killed the Amari Cooper trade for Dallas. And then and I was like, this is an awful trade. Then he played really well. Well, he played really well. And then I was like, hey man, I saw he was on my show. And I was like, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And he was like, yeah.
Oh, I see. You were to him, yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I was wrong. I was wrong. I thought Amari Cooper was no good.
Got it.
And he put up big numbers. And I apologized to him, and he did not seem to care. Most of these high achievers don't care because typically, and this is the one thing I think fans get wrong. There's some players who really care. But most players are significantly harder on themselves at that level than we could possibly be, unless it's a legitimate cheap shot, which I don't tend to do anymore. I used to be more of a cheap shot artist.
I think also most players only know if someone mean about them on first take. So.
Yeah. I've only been on first take once, so I can't really I can't really.
That's where you can.
I don't have a large sample size.
And friends, but mostly enemies.
All right, Mina Kimes, you did Cookie Monster, you did Baby Beluga. Thanks, pal.
I enjoyed it.